Another little section of things at the survival retreat location. I've been working on this off and on for about 2 years. A lot of these trees were just far gone. They're apple trees. Here there was a pear tree. This tree we weren't able to identify for a long time, but I went ahead and trimmed it anyway because it was relatively healthy and it benefited a lot from kind of hollowing out, getting all the branches out that were dragging on the ground or close to the ground, and would make it where bugs could crawl up on the leafy part. If bugs have to crawl up the trunk, that makes them free game for birds, or larger bugs. And larger predatory bugs tend not to eat your fruit or bore wood, okay? So as long as you've got open air movement and a situation where woodpeckers or other birds can see that trunk from a distance and they start seeing bugs moving on there, they figure, okay, there's some protein, let's fly over and get it. If it's all scraggly and covered like that, then it becomes more of an insect habitat and the birds aren't going to get into there. So then the bugs start taking over and killing branches, and you'll have different types of bugs in there. The other thing that'll happen is the tree growth, a lot of that inner branch material starts sucking the nutrient out of the trunk, and it doesn't quite get to the outer growth. Now this one I started trimming, but it was so thick on the inside, I just couldn't work with it. So I concentrated my efforts over here last year, and it did pretty well. I later found out this is an apricot tree when the bees started to come around and pollinate. And the nearest other apricot tree, as far as we can tell, is about a mile away. But they've been able to get between the two and fertilize them, which is good for us. Didn't get a huge harvest out of it, but a lot fell on the ground. You can kind of see the pits. They'll be eaten by the critters very quickly once they're on the ground for any period of time. But with this large open area under here, a little bit more care. This is a good little camping area. Not a really good construction area because it can get murky during the snowmelt period. It gets a little murky out here during the rainy and the snowmelt period. The other thing to look out for is that the cut off wood here from the trees that had been dead and we cut them up, you don't want to take that indoors. It's full of bugs, so it's not really good for indoor heating. It's pretty well strictly for the outdoor fire pit type stuff, but you really can't take that indoors. Not safely, okay, not without introducing bugs to your indoor areas. And but that's part of the whole situation of tree care. And at a survival retreat location, what you're going to look at is it's okay to go ornamental with this. We're not trying to maximize the apple harvest, or in this case the apricot harvest. A true orchard manager on a fruit orchard wants smaller trees where they can pretty well reach the whole tree for harvest. For me, I'm perfectly happy to have a lot of the wood, a lot of the fruit come down as deadfall and then feed the cattle and game animals that come wandering through. Not a problem with that. And of course, we're nowhere near Bundy or Bunkerville or any of that, but we have an agreement with the local cattle ranchers that their cattle can graze here for free. They can just drift through, and they can graze for free as long as we could have some if we really need it. Other than that, we go to the grocery store and buy meat. I'm not against people who live on wild game or harvest their own cattle, but then we don't want to go with that old Oregon joke. The joke in Eastern Oregon is the only time you ever eat your own cattle is when you're at your neighbor's place for dinner. We don't play that, so they know we don't. We get along fine. And of course, the full-time people here help provide security for the situation. So anybody coming up is going to check in with them, and we don't have this unannounced armed people saying, oh, by the way, we're looking for our cattle. No, it doesn't work that way. So having a positive relation with them is part of the situation. We're going to know who's coming around. But with tree management, you definitely want to have orchard trees of some sort at a retreat property. This area here is getting cleared for crops, and we're having issues with water right now. So we're not sure what we're going to do, but what we did know is having a bunch of sagebrush that's highly flammable with firestorms happening all over the place isn't good. So A lot of this is getting cleared anyway. Over here you'll see new tree planting, and the reality of planting new trees is they're not all going to make it. Okay, we did some irrigation, but again ran in kind of a water shortage situation. Not all new trees are going to make it, so we got to kind of evaluate them a little while later and then see what makes it, and try to cultivate that to grow. It's going to grow slowly, but that's why I concentrate a lot of effort on helping the existing trees get big enough that they're going to provide some shade, some cover, and some fruit for when we need it.